Hey everyone, and welcome to another deep dive. Today, we're getting our hands dirty.
Oh, I like where this is going.
We're diving into the world of environmental
What
science.
was a relevant topic, right?
Absolutely.
Mhm.
We're joined by this really cool report put together by the Life Skill Foundation, and it's specifically designed for any of you listening who are in grades 8-12 and curious about a career in environmental science.
And it's way more than just a pamphlet you'd get on career day. This deep dive, and excuse the pun, really gets into what it takes to be an environmental scientist.
Love that. So, before we go any further, can you give us a little background on the Life Skill Foundation? Who are they and what do they do?
Yeah, so they're a nonprofit based in Ahmedabad, India, and their whole mission is dedicated to empowering young people.
Okay, I like them already.
Right. They offer career counseling, skill building workshops, really anything to give young people the tools to make good decisions about their futures.
Which is exactly what this report is for, right?
Uh-huh.
To help students figure out if this is the right career path for them.
Yeah, they've really tapped into the growing interest in environmental science.
And for good reason.
Exactly. Our planet needs all the help it can get, right? But it's also about making sure that this is something you really want to do.
The big decision.
Huge. So they've laid out all the info you need to make that choice.
So this report is like a guidebook to the world of environmental science.
Yeah, and it's not some boring textbook. They make it engaging and easy to understand.
Perfect. Well, let's jump right in. The report starts by painting a picture of what the future holds for aspiring environmental scientists. And spoiler alert, it's looking pretty good.
It really is. I mean, with climate change and everything else going on, the demand for environmental scientists is just booming.
Okay, so how much are we talking?
The report actually says they project a 21% job growth over the next 10 years.
21%. Wow, that's huge.
Yeah, and that's way faster than average for other jobs.
So it's not just a job, it's a career with a future.
Right, and it's not just one specific area either.
Oh, you mean like government jobs, research, stuff like that?
Exactly. The report mentions government agencies, private companies, research institutions, a ton of options.
So there's room to find your niche, whatever interests you most.
You got it.
That's awesome. So if you're passionate about making a difference in the world, this could be your chance.
Yeah.
But what does an environmental scientist actually do?
Yeah.
Is it all about hugging trees and chasing butterflies?
Uh-huh. Well, a love for nature is definitely a plus,
Right.
but there's a lot more to it. And the report actually debunks some common myths about environmental science.
Oh, I love a good myth busting. What else does the report say?
Well, one big one is that it's all field work.
Yeah, like you're always out in the wilderness, knee-deep in a swamp or something.
Right. And while field work is definitely a part of it, it's not the whole picture.
Makes sense. Someone's got to analyze all that data from the swamp.
Exactly. The report really stresses the balance between field work, lab work, and data analysis.
So it's dynamic, a mix of hands-on exploration and then really digging into the data
Yes.
like a scientific detective.
I like that. And that actually leads to another point about personality fit, which the report talks about.
Okay, so if someone is listening and thinking this sounds interesting, what are some signs that they might have a knack for environmental science?
Well, if you're someone who loves to investigate, analyze, and solve problems, you're off to a good start.
Those aha moments when you connect the dots.
Exactly. The report uses this system called the Holland Code to illustrate this. Have you heard of
I
that?
have, yeah.
It categorizes different personality types, and it suggests those with what they call investigative and realistic traits do well in this field.
Okay, let's break that down a bit. What do those traits mean in the context of environmental science?
So investigative types are those naturally curious folks, the ones always asking why and how.
The ones who want to know how everything works.
Yes, they want to get to the root of environmental issues, understand the underlying causes.
So they're like the Sherlock Holmes of the science world, always searching for clues.
Exactly. And then you have the realistic types, super practical, hands-on, results-oriented.
Okay, so not afraid to get their hands dirty.
Literally, sometimes.
Yeah.
And they excel at finding tangible solutions.
So you need a balance of both, the big picture thinkers and the pragmatic doers.
Exactly. That blend of curiosity, analytical thinking, and just a can-do attitude is what makes a successful environmental scientist.
I love that. So we've got the personality traits down, but what does a day in the life actually look like?
Well, that's the thing about this field, right? There's no typical day.
Ooh, I love that. Keeps things interesting.
Definitely. And the report dives into that, what environmental scientists actually do.
Okay, so less about the textbook stuff, more about the real-world action.
Exactly.
So give us the inside scoop. What's it really like?
Well, imagine this.
Okay,
You're trekking through the rainforest, you're collecting data on endangered species,
cool.
or maybe you're scuba diving in a coral reef, studying ocean acidification.
Wow. Sign me up for that.
Right, you could even be in a lab analyzing air samples for pollution levels.
Okay, so there's something for every kind of nature enthusiast, it sounds like. But I- I'm guessing it's not all just adventure. There's some serious brain power required, too.
Oh, absolutely. The report talks about that too.
Okay, good.
It's a huge part of the job. Analyzing data, interpreting results, and then figuring out solutions to really complex problems.
Right, like you're a detective.
Exactly.
But instead of solving crimes, you're solving environmental mysteries. I love that. What were some of the actual tasks the report mentioned that stood out to you?
One was conducting field surveys and collecting environmental data.
Okay, so that's the hands-on part. What does that look like?
It could be anything, really, like setting up camera traps to monitor wildlife or taking soil samples to test for contamination.
Fascinating. So important, too. What about the analytical side? What's that entail?
Let me see. Oh, yeah, they mention analyzing data using specialized software and statistical techniques.
Okay, so that's where the math skills come in.
Yeah, exactly. You've got to love looking for those patterns, drawing conclusions from the data you gather.
Right, so it's a real mix of adventure and analysis.
I know. The best of both worlds.
It really is. But let's switch gears for a moment and talk career progression.
Yeah.
How do you go from, like, newbie environmental scientist to a seasoned pro?
Well, the Life Skill Foundation actually breaks it down really well.
Oh, good.
They have these 4 job zones. Each one is a different stage of your career.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell us more.
So you start with Job Zone 1, entry-level stuff.
Like right out of college.
Exactly.
What kind of jobs are those?
Could be research assistant, lab technician, things like that. You're just getting your feet wet, building your skills and experience.
So no pressure to single-handedly save the planet on day one.
Not quite.
Hmm.
But as you gain more experience and knowledge, you move up. Job Zone 2 is next.
Okay, what happens in Job Zone 2?
So you're taking on more responsibility, maybe managing a small team or leading a specific research project.
So you're starting to make a real impact. What's next?
Job Zone 3 is where it gets really exciting. You're a seasoned pro now, you've got experience, maybe a master's degree or 2.
Fancy.
Right. And you're leading big projects, conducting your own research, maybe even publishing your findings.
Wow, like a scientific celebrity?
Haha, kinda.
But there's one more level, right? Job Zone 4.
You got it. This is the top high-level positions like environmental program director or chief sustainability officer.
Wow, that's amazing. What do they do?
You're shaping environmental policy, you're influencing major decisions, basically leading the charge to create a healthier planet.
That's a pretty great gig if you can get it.
Oh.
Okay, so we've got the career path all laid out. But before you can conquer those job zones, you need the education. What does the report recommend for students who are still in school?
Well, they really emphasize getting a strong foundation in science and math during high school.
So pay attention in those classes, everyone.
Yes, biology, chemistry, physics.
The building blocks.
Exactly. It gives you that basic understanding of how the natural world works.
Makes sense.
Hmm.
So high school is about building that strong base. What about after you graduate? College is next, right?
Definitely. And the report really stresses getting a bachelor's degree in environmental science or a related field, of course.
Of course. Do they mention where to go?
They do.
Okay, tell us more.
They do. They actually break down different tiers of colleges in India.
Oh, that's interesting. Why'd they do that?
Well, they realize not everyone can go to those, top-tier schools.
Right, that makes sense. College is already stressful enough.
Totally. So they have the, top-notch institutions, right?
Yeah, like the IITs, the Indian Institute of Technology.
Yeah, and the Indian Institute of Science, ISC, for students who want to shoot for the stars.
Love it. But they also have other options, right?
Yeah, so they have Tier 2 options that are still really great,
Like what?
like Pune University, Banaras Hindu University, solid programs.
Those are some great schools. What about if someone can't go to those? Are there still options?
Exactly. That's what's so great about this report. They really thought of everything. They mentioned that there are lots of Tier 3 colleges that offer a really good Bachelor of Science in Environmental Science.
Okay, that's good to know. So they're saying you don't have to go to the fanciest, most expensive school to get a good education in this field.
Exactly.
Perfect. So let's say you're graduating soon, you've got your degree in hand. What are some ways to really, up your chances of landing a job in this competitive field?
Well, The report really emphasizes getting that hands-on experience.
Okay, so internships, volunteering, that sort of thing.
Yes, anything to get you some real-world exposure.
Right, because what looks good on a resume, right, spending a summer researching water pollution or interning at a wildlife sanctuary.
Exactly. And it's not just about what's on the resume.
Oh, right. It's about the experience, too, of course.
You're learning, you're networking, you're making connections.
It's like a test drive before you buy the car.
Haha, perfect analogy.
Yeah. So speaking of test drives, this report has mentioned job zones a few times now. What are those exactly?
Right, so they break a career in environmental science into 4 different job zones.
Okay, and each one signifies like a different level of, what, responsibility?
Yeah.
Seniority?
Yeah, exactly. And growth potential, too. Think of it like leveling up in a video game.
Ooh, I like that. Okay, so walk us through these levels. What does starting out look like?
So job zone 1 is entry level.
Makes sense.
Like think research assistant, lab technician,
Yeah, those sound familiar.
You're just getting started, gaining those basic skills and experience.
So you're not expected to come in and solve climate change on day one.
Haha, no. But you work your way up, gain more experience, and then it's on to job zone 2.
Okay, level 2. What's going on in job zone 2?
So now you're taking on more responsibility.
Right. Like what?
Maybe you're managing a small team or leading a research project.
Okay, so you're stepping up, making more decisions. What happens next?
Then comes job zone 3. You're like seasoned pro by this point.
Oh, this is getting good. But tell me more.
You've got years of experience under your belt, maybe even a master's degree or 2.
I was just going to say, I bet further education is part of that climb.
Oh, for sure. And now you're leading those big research projects, maybe mentoring newer scientists, even publishing your work.
Wow, that's impressive. What's left at that point? Job zone 4? Is that it?
That's the peak of the mountain. You've made it.
What does that look like, job-wise?
Think environmental program director or maybe chief sustainability officer.
Oh, wow, you're basically running the show at that point.
Pretty much. You're
Oh.
shaping policies, guiding those big picture initiatives.
That's incredible. So there's a clear path for growth. But it's not all about the titles, right?
Oh, right. This is about passion.
Making a real difference in the world.
Mm.
So this has been really interesting, but if you had to summarize, what are some of the key takeaways our listeners should remember about becoming an environmental scientist?
Okay, well, first off, if you're passionate about the environment and you love science and problem solving, this could be the career for you.
Absolutely.
Second, it's a field with a ton of growth potential. The world needs environmental scientists now more than ever.
Couldn't agree more. And what was that last thing?
Oh, right. It's not just what you know, it's about those experiences you get, the connections you make.
Oh, so true. It's a journey. Well, this deep dive into environmental science has been eye-opening. If any of you are as intrigued as I am, be sure to check out the full report from the Life Skill Foundation.
It's amazing.
It really is, full of even more insights, resources, and stories from actual environmental scientists.
Real-life heroes.
Yes. And you can find all those details in our episode description.
And don't forget, you can reach out to the Life Skill Foundation directly.
Yes. Their contact info is in the episode description as well. They're super passionate about this, and they're there to help and answer any questions you might have.
They'd love to hear from you.
Absolutely. So, to wrap things up, go explore your passion for our planet, and remember, you have the power to make a difference. Until next time, keep those brains curious.